Hello everyone, I'm Jacob Kaufman with NerdOnTheStreet.com, and today I am showing you how to encrypt your files with Tomb. So you may have heard about some of the things going on in the tech world right now about Apple being forced, or at least ordered, to break their own encryption or enable breaking their encryption easier. And as of right now, the government is not actually trying to ban encryption, but what they are doing is they're trying to make it so that files are not encrypted by default on devices that people buy. Right now, if you go out and buy an iPhone and you lock it with a passcode, it's automatically encrypted. And if you go out and buy an Android phone and you lock it with a passcode, it's automatically encrypted. Well, if you've got a desktop computer or a laptop computer, your files on there are not automatically encrypted. You have to encrypt those yourself right now. One way to do that is by encrypting your entire drive or an entire partition on your hard drive, and that is certainly a good way to do it. That's a very secure way to do it. Just encrypting your entire hard drive, people can't get to any of your stuff. If for whatever reason you don't want to encrypt your entire hard drive, but there are certain files or folders that you do want to encrypt, I came across a project called Tomb. It's basically a set of commands. It adds a set of commands to your Linux computer, and it uses tools that are already installed on your Linux computer. So it's not a brand new encryption program. All of the underlying programs that Tomb uses are already installed on most computers with Linux on them. All that Tomb does is it takes like 5 or 6 complicated commands and it simplifies it down into one command for you to use. So it makes it a lot easier to use the encryption tools that are already built into your computer if you're running Linux. The way that Tomb works is you create a Tomb file, and then you place files into that Tomb file. So the file is kind of like a virtual flash drive. You put any files you want encrypted into this virtual flash drive, and then when you run the command to close the Tomb, that flash drive that's, it's on your hard drive, but that Tomb file is encrypted and nobody can get into it without your key and your password. And then when you run the command with the key and the password to open the file up, then you can access the files inside of that container again. It's sort of a container. That's the best way to think of it, I think. Tombs are containers. They contain your files, and then you just encrypt the container. So yeah, without further ado, I've got my laptop right here, and I'm going to show you how to install Tomb and how to use it. Alright, so my laptop happens to be running Linux Mint Debian Edition right now. Tomb is available for all major distros. I have it installed on my Arch computer specifically, so I can tell you for sure it works on Arch. I'm not sure if it's in the main Arch repository or in the AUR, but it's definitely somewhere there. So we are going to go ahead and go to Tomb's website. So here's Tomb's website right here. It's on dyn.org, and I will put this link in the description of this video. So we will scroll down, and here we have installation instructions. I'll be honest, I've never used this on an Ubuntu or Debian-based distro. Only on Arch, so. Alright, so on Arch it's nice and easy to install because it is in the AUR. I was able to just, install the AUR package, but since we're on Debian, we are going to have to compile this, it looks like. No big deal, we'll get through this. Let's just take it one step at a time. So before we download Tomb itself, you can see there are some things that we need to have installed. One of those is ZSH, so we'll do sudo apt-get install ZSH, and that is an interpreter, which, as I understand it, actually I don't want to try and explain that because somebody will probably call me stupid for saying it wrong. I'm pretty sure that's what takes the commands that you type in or the commands in a program and runs them. I think that's what an interpreter does. Okay, so that's installed. Next up, I'm pretty sure we have sudo installed because I'm using that command right now, but just to make sure, yep, sudo's installed, so now we'll do sudo apt-get install gnupg, and that is already installed. Like I said, most of the stuff is installed on most Linux computers already. I just know that ZSH is not always installed. Download the source distro from this place. It's like the latest version is Tomb 2.2. We will download this and save. Alright, so that's done downloading. We'll just open that up and extract it into our downloads directory and show those files right there. Alright, so after we extracted that folder, should be pretty easy. We will just cd into that folder right there, which you can do by copying those commands I just typed in, and then type sudo make install. That will install this to our system. Okay, Tomb is installed successfully. Alright, so now we have Tomb installed. So let's do tomb --help to get the help file. And Tomb has a really great help file because, as you can see, it tells you all of the commands you need to know right here at the top of the help file. As you can see, the 3 commands you will need to know are dig, forge, and lock, in that order. So let's say that I've got a file here, and I actually didn't prep for this video too well because I didn't actually put any files on this laptop, but I'm just going to open up my documents folder and create an empty file. Call it super secret secrets. And in here we're going to type a bunch of stuff that I don't want anyone else to know. Alright, so this is a file clearly of extreme importance, and we don't want anyone but me accessing that file. So I'm going to put it in a tomb so that nobody else can get to it. So I want the tomb to also be in the documents folder just for ease of, explaining this. So we are going to cd into our documents folder. The first command you'll need to run to make a tomb is tomb dig -s and then the size of the tomb in megabytes. Let's say I want a 1 gigabyte tomb. This file is not a gigabyte, but let's say I want a 1 gigabyte tomb, 1024 megabytes. And then we're going to call it notsecrets.tomb. Not to be confused with Not Secrets, because there aren't many of those because we're a YouTube channel. We'll just run that command, and as you can see, we are creating a new tomb in notsecrets.tomb. Now, if you ever get confused about the order of the commands to run, it's actually really nice that the program is called Tomb, and the commands are kind of like a role-playing game. You dig the tomb first, and then you forge a key, and then you use the key to lock the tomb. It's really easy to wrap your head around, unlike, when you're just using an encryption program on its own, you gotta worry about math and stuff. Tomb, you just have to worry about digging and forging keys. It's very easy to visualize, so it's easy to remember the commands. Now, one thing that I did not mention earlier, but I'll mention it while we're waiting for this to run, is when you're creating a tomb, you will need to know the size of the tomb that you're creating. There is a way to make tombs bigger. There is not a way to make tombs smaller. I've never used the commands to make them bigger, so I don't even know how that works. Basically, the best way to do this is know the size of the tomb before you create it. And then if you ever need to upgrade to a bigger tomb or downgrade to a smaller tomb, you can always just make another tomb and copy the files out of one and into another. But that is kind of important to know. If you're keeping just text files in your tomb, then a 1 gigabyte or 2 gigabyte tomb is probably going to be good. If you're keeping videos inside of this tomb, then you're going to want a bigger tomb, like 10 gigs or 20 gigs. And really, it also kind of depends on how big the hard drive in your computer is. I've got a 2 terabyte hard drive in my desktop, so I can afford to go and just make a 10 gigabyte tomb. That's not really too much space on my 2 terabyte hard drive. If you're on a laptop with a 250 gig hard drive like this one has, then a 10 gigabyte tomb is going to be taking up a sizable portion of your hard drive. So yeah, now the good thing about that, the good thing about having to decide the size of the tomb before you start, is that people can't tell how much data is in the tomb without opening it. The tomb file, I just created a 1 gigabyte tomb, it just finished, so if we go and click here, notsecrets.tomb, we can go down here and you can see it says 1.1 gigs. The computer thinks that this file is a gigabyte. It is a gigabyte, actually. This file is a gigabyte even though it's completely empty and there's nothing in it. So that's kind of a nice side effect of having to choose the size beforehand, is that people can't figure out what's in it by how big it is, or at least not as easily. So as you can see here, Tomb is very easy to use. Like I said, it walks you right through the process. So it says your tomb is not yet ready. You need to forge a key and lock it. And then it gives you the next 2 commands in order that you'll need to run. Really useful. So tomb forge notsecrets.tomb.key. Now, in case you're wondering, you don't actually have to call this notsecrets.tomb.key. That is the file structure that Tomb recommends that you use because it's easy to remember. This key unlocks this tomb file. But if you wanted to call this totally not a key.key, then you could do that. You can call this key whatever you want. The important thing is that you in your mind or in your notebook or however you're keeping track of this stuff, you need to remember which key goes to which tomb. So we are going to forge that key, and as you can see, it says commanded to forge key with cipher algorithm this, and to make it faster, you can move the mouse around. That's interesting. I've never actually read it that detailed. So apparently you can make the key forge faster by moving your mouse because this operation takes time. Keep using this computer on other tasks. Yeah. You can use an entropy generation daemon. So I'm guessing that it's forging this key maybe randomly based on your computer's input or what your computer's doing. That's really interesting. That I can't believe, I've been using this thing for months. I've been using this program for months, and I never noticed that it says that. To make it faster, you can move the mouse around. So that's really interesting. We'll just wait for this key to forge, and this will take different amounts of time based on what computer you're on. This would have been done already on my desktop because the key file isn't going to be a ton of space. Now the tomb digging, that will take a while even if you're on a powerful computer. Even on my computer, it takes, a little bit to make a 100 gigabyte tomb. It takes, 10, 20 minutes. The key file is just based on how fast your processor is because it's using entropy and it's running a bunch of math stuff around because, encryption's based on math. So yeah, if your computer is literally a high schooler in your computer running calculations by hand, then it's going to take years for this key to complete. If you have the latest Xeon processor, the 6th generation, 7th generation, whatever, Intel high-end stuff, then yeah, this is going to be over in a flash. Just depends on your specs, so we will wait for that to finish. So I brought the green screen back. What do you guys think? I think I figured out how to use it better too, so hopefully this will look okay as a video. Alright, that is finished, and as you can see, when you're creating the key, when you're forging the key, that is when you will come up with the password that you're going to use with your tomb. So type the new password to secure your key. So really, the password is not being applied to the tomb, it's being applied to the key that you use to unlock the tomb. I guess that's how that works, since we're creating the password while we're using the key. Like I said, I've been using this program for a few months, haven't put a lot of thought into, how it actually works because it's pretty easy to use. But it's good to know how these things work. So type the password to secure your key. I'm going to type in 1234 as my password. You should choose a longer and more complicated password than that, but that's just the password that I chose. As you can see, pretty much instantly after we hit enter on the password there, it says your key is ready. So now what we'll do is, you can see we still have the feedback from the last command we ran up here. This is the next thing we'll do, is you have to use the key to lock the tomb. So tomb lock not secrets.tomb-k not secrets.tomb.key. Now I think that as long as you put the key right after the -k, it doesn't actually matter where in the command the key goes and the tomb goes. Some guides I've seen online are particular about which order the key and the tomb go in, but I'm pretty sure that as long as you do -k space key, and then somewhere in there also have the tomb file, it will work. So we're going to go ahead and lock the tomb with the key, enter password for your user account to gain super user privileges, and that's why we need sudo installed to use this. So I'll type in my user account password, and then it asks you to insert the password to the key. Now you'll see down here, you'll see in the terminal, it says checking if the tomb is empty. We never step on somebody else's bones. So the program will not let you lock somebody else's tomb that already has stuff in it. That's a nice safety feature right there to prevent breaking things on accident with this. It says fine, this tomb seems empty, checks the key is valid, tells you what cipher it's using to lock the tomb, password is required to use this key. So we will type in the password 1234. And password OK, and locking tomb. You can see formatting with the ext3/ext4 file system. Like I said, what this actually is, it's called a loopback device. So we are actually going to mount our tomb file as if it was an external device, and it's going to show up like a flash drive or an external hard drive would show up. So, done locking, your tomb is ready and secured. There we go. So now what you do to open that up is you type in tomb open not secrets.tomb-k not secrets.tomb.key. Like I said, as long as you've got the tomb file and then -k and then the key file, doesn't matter which one you put first, if the key file goes first or the tomb file goes first, just make sure that the -k is before the key file. Alright, so commanded to open tomb not secrets.tomb, blah blah blah, type in your password for the key file. And I think that you can actually use the same key file with several tombs, which would be a useful reason why the password is applied to the key, so that you can have one key and one password that you're using for several tombs. As long as somebody doesn't guess the password, then they have access to all your tombs. I would recommend creating a separate key for every tomb. That's just me. So now you can see success unlocking tomb, checking file system, And now it has been mounted. It has been mounted to /media/notsecrets, and if we go back over to our file browser, you can see here we have a device called notsecrets. So we have this super secret secrets file that we don't want anyone to find. So what will we do? We will cut that and paste it into notsecrets, just as if you were pasting a file onto a flash drive, like I said. If we go back to our documents folder, now you can see notsecrets.txt is no longer in here anywhere. It's stored within that loopback device. So now just go to your terminal and type in tomb close, and that closes the tomb. I've never tried opening several tombs at once and then typing tomb close, but there's also a command called tomb slam all. And if you do that, I know it pretty much instantly closes all the tombs you have open. So if you're opening more than one of these at once, that might be useful. But you can see after we close the tomb, it says closing tomb. You can see it disappeared from our file browser because it's no longer mounted. So now all we've got is this 1 GB file called notsecrets.tomb. So somebody viewing that file, all they see is a 1 GB file. They don't know what's in it. They know it's definitely not secrets because that's the name of the file, but they can't tell what my text document in it is. And if we double click on that, it says unknown file type. I don't know what you want me to show you, but the point is you cannot get into this tomb. And then here we have the key. It's recommended that you store these in different places because if somebody gets access to your hard drive right now, the tomb is right next to the key file and they're named the same thing, so all they have to do is guess the password to get in. So what you probably want to do is put the tomb file somewhere safe, like on an external hard drive or even on cloud storage because it's encrypted. Google can't look into that if you put it in your Google Drive because they can't see into encrypted files. So put that tomb file somewhere safe and then put the key file also somewhere safe. For instance, on a flash drive, maybe you just have a dedicated flash drive for all your keys. If you lose the key, you lose access to your tomb. So if you do keep the key on a flash drive, maybe make it 2 flash drives. Have a spare one with copies of all your keys just in case you lose the first one. But store those 2 files in completely separate places, and then if you ever want to get into it again, which I assume you would, that's why you're securing the files, what you do is you type in tomb open notsecrets.tomb -k notsecrets.tomb.key. Press enter. It will ask you for the password. If you type in the wrong password, look what happens. Just asks you for the password again. We will type in the correct password and then it will mount. And what do we have in our not secrets loopback device here? It is super secret secrets. There it is. Now I really love Tomb because before I found this program, I did not know how to encrypt things on an individual basis efficiently. I knew how to do it with like pzip or 7zip or whatever. I knew about archiving programs with encryption built in, and I knew how to encrypt my entire hard drive at once while I was installing Linux. But if for some reason your hard drive already is not encrypted, or you have a reason to not want to encrypt your hard drive, let's say that you access it from another computer often, or you've got multiple hard drives in your computer, you want to be able to access one while you're booted into an operating system on the other one. There's lots of valid reasons for not wanting to encrypt your hard drive, but there's also lots of valid reasons for wanting to keep some of your stuff safe. So this way you can do that. You can open up the files in this Tomb file here. You can see while you're in here, the file browser will actually tell you how much free space you have. So we've got a 1 GB Tomb file. It says free space 966.3 megabytes. And if we copy this and we paste it a few times, then that will go down. 966.2 megabytes, there we go. So you can work with this as if it was an external hard drive. That's what I love about it. I love that it makes it super easy to see where the encrypted stuff is and how to access it. So yeah, we're just gonna, once again, you can open this up, you can modify these files and save them, you can put new stuff in, you can take this stuff out, and then when you're done, just type in tomb close, and it is all safe and secure right where you left the Tomb file. So yeah, if any of you guys have questions about Tomb, let me know on the forums over at nerdonthestreet.com, or of course, if you really want to, down in the comments section of YouTube or Dailymotion, wherever you're viewing this video. I, for one, think that Tomb is a great way to encrypt your files. It really, it makes it easier than if you actually had to go and figure out how to do all of that stuff yourself, and you had to go and research hashes and research loopback devices and mounting things and whatever. Tomb makes it super easy. If you can imagine in your mind digging up a tomb and then forging a key and locking the tomb, then you can use this program to encrypt your files. Super powerful. Like I said, let me know if you have any questions, but for now, that's everything I have to talk about. So I'm Jacob Kaufman with nerdonthestreet.com, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.